Welcome to the CFA Level 1 exam questions and answer. I dedicate today's video not for the question as usual, but for one topic, which is the efficient frontier. The efficient frontier. So what is meant by that concept? And we will discuss it in this video, which is the video number 5. So let us start. Let us start with this graph of the capital market line, which is the efficient frontier graph. To start with, this is the expected return from 0 all the way up to here. Here is the highest expected return. The word expected is very important because we are talking about the future expected return given certain portfolio. This is the standard deviation, which measures the risk. So it's a measure of risk, a standard deviation. It shows that how the expected return deviate from its mean. For example, if you have a stock that goes up suddenly and down suddenly, this has a very high fluctuation. That means very high standard deviation. Compare this to a stock that moves in small quantities like this. This will have very low standard deviation and hence a very low risk. So standard deviation is a measure of risk. It starts with risk 0 and goes all the way to the highest level of risk. As we know, there is a positive relationship between risk and expected return. Positive means the higher the risk, the higher the expected return. It should be this way. Okay. Now, if you notice here, the risk is 0, but there is a return here. This is the risk-free rate of return. It has no risk. The risk is 0, but still you gain 1%, 2 or 3%, which is the treasury bill. That is the government debt, because the government is not expected to default. So the risk is 0, but there is minimum return. So what all this about? The black dots are the possible combination of riskless asset and risky asset. Risky asset means, as the name shows, it means that the asset has some sort of risk, like bonds and stock market. You may construct a portfolio with riskless asset and risky asset. These are all the possible combination of portfolio. I can have this portfolio or this one or this one or this or any of all these combination portfolio. And we draw here the efficient frontier. The frontier is the upper side of all the possible portfolios. You can't have a portfolio outside this area. If you have a portfolio here, then the efficient frontier will be this way. So it's always below the frontier. Now, what does this tell us? For example, let us take this point. I will have this risk and I expect this return. Let us say 3% given this level of risk. Somebody else might say, why should I assume this risk and get this return? Why can't choose this one? I will have the same level of risk, but I will get higher return than the previous one. Similarly, this one, we have a risk here, this level of risk, and this is the expected return. Somebody else might say, I can have this, which is better than the previous one, because I will have the same risk at this point, but I will have higher expected return than this one. So there is always optimum combination between risk and the expected return. What does the frontier tell us? It tells us that the best portfolio should lie within this one frontier. Anything below is not efficient. There is always better point than this below one. How is that? For example, let us again take these 2 points. Somebody might ask, why should I go for this level of risk and get only this return? Why don't we go here and get a higher expected return? Yet a third person might put this point and say, why don't we have one here with the same risk but very high expected return? There is nothing beyond the frontier. So this looks much better than the other two. Similarly, if you draw one here, it will be better than this, because this will have the same risk, but this will have higher return than the risk one. This is the optimal point that is tangent with the capital market line. Capital market line, this is for the whole market. Anything tangent here, this will be much better. So it is all a trade-off between expected return and the risk. It all depends on the risk appetite of the investor or the risk tolerance. For example, if I'm a retired person or retired investor, I can't take huge risk because this is my life saving. I don't want to risk it, because if I lose everything, I can't start from again. So I will accept risk-free rate of return of here, for example, 0 or a little bit higher. Risk and return is here, enough for the day-to-day expenses, because I don't have education, I don't have only my personal expenses. But if I'm a young person, I may take the whole risk. If I'm 20 years old, I may take the highest risk, hoping that I will get the highest return. If anything goes wrong, I can start again because I'm still young. So the risk tolerance depends on each investor. So this here tells us, whatever your risk appetite or tolerance, you will have better combination or portfolio lying within this frontier. If you are willing to take very high risk at this level, so the best point will be a portfolio here that will give you this one. But again, if I'm taking this point at this risk, why can't I get this lower risk with the same level of return? So the matter is highest expected return for a given level of risk. Let us give this level of risk. That is a given level of risk, this one. I should aim for the highest expected return. Given this risk, I should aim to this, because this will have higher expected return than this one and this one. Or conversely, the lowest risk for a given expected return. Let us fix the expected return. Given expected return, this one. And this point. Okay, these both points have the same expected return, but this one have lowest risk, given the same expected return than this one. This has very high risk compared to this risk, and this risk is higher, but both have the same expected return. So I will choose this one. So it is either highest expected return for a given level of risk or the lowest risk of return. The difference, the higher the risk I'm assuming, if I opt for this point instead of this ideal portfolio, this is what is extra risk I'm taking from here to here without any compensation. I'm not being compensated for this risk, assuming a risk from this level to this level, because I'm going to get the same rate of return similar to somebody who chose the ideal portfolio and assume a risk lower than my risk. That is the whole point of the efficient frontier. Thank you for your time. Please do subscribe to the channel so that you get the whole series.